Hello and welcome to the Culture Swally, a podcast dedicated to Scottish news and pop culture. My name is Nicky and I am joined by the man who has never needed to muck around with iron brew bottles as he always had his camel pack handy. As we found out in the episode last time, it's Greg. How are you today, Greg?
Very well, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. All good, can't complain. Everything is fine and dandy. We've been cleaning the house this week because we have the in-laws visiting next week. So it's been cleaning the windows and cleaning the balcony and all the lovely things that go with that. I'm not trying to say we keep a shit house, if you know what I mean. The house is always clean and tidy, but it's just those little things that you overlook and you think, we live in the 7th floor, top floor, and we had window cleaners came last year around about July. So we've kind of been putting it off, thinking, well, they'll be coming back this year. Fucking bastards haven't appeared, so we had to clean the windows ourselves. It's terrible.
So, I mean, the thing is, you always go a wee bit further when you've got somebody coming to stay, especially like your in-laws. It doesn't matter how long you've known them for, you always want to just maintain that, hopefully, good impression that they have of you. And you'll have something to talk about the next time, when I ask you what you've been up to in the next episode, you'll be able to tell us all the things you've been getting up to with your in-laws.
Oh yeah, we've got a full itinerary planned, of course. We've got everything planned out. We're going to go and see some windmills. In fact, I'm not. I've taken that day off, actually. We're going to go to Den Haag for the day and see stuff. We've got restaurants booked we're going to go to. Oh yeah, it's going to be a busy time. Don't you worry. I'm sure I'll have lots to talk about next time on this one.
Yeah, something to anticipate.
Definitely. So what about yourself? I see you've been up to a little bit of baking over the last couple of days.
Doing a bit of... I'd never made shortbread before, and we were having people over yesterday for dinner. So we've been watching this program on Netflix, and it's a cooking program. Zoe Ball presents it with a girl called Nadia, who I believe won the Great British Bake Off in 2015. I know you're a fan. Yeah. You might be familiar with her work. It's a good-natured show. I can't remember what it's called, but basically two families go up against each other. Then there's 3 rounds. The first round is they have to make a 2-course meal for £10. Second one is the judges go to their house and they make like one of their favourite family meals that they make together. And the last one is they're back in the sort of studio, the studio, and they have to make a meal that would impress their neighbours, so they feel would impress their neighbours. So, I mean, it is very good natured, you know what I mean? Like the contestants are all really nice to each other, and the judges, I'm not sure, I think, remember there was the 2 fat ladies, the cooks. I think one of the judges is one of those ladies, Rosemary, and this Italian fella. So even when they're critical, they're not like harsh. But of course they get these like Indian or Pakistani families on, like these women who have been cooking since they were like 1 and can like whack up like a variety of dishes with their eyes closed. And long story short, I was really craving a curry, but I wanted to make like a dessert, and I never make desserts because I don't really eat desserts. I don't have that much of a sweet tooth for desserts. So I thought we've got one of Jamie Oliver's books, and I was leafing through and I realised that I had all the ingredients in the cupboard for shortbread. So it's just flour.
Sorry, you're making shortbread from an Englishman's cookbook. Just to clarify, yeah?
Yeah, I know. But all you need is butter, flour and sugar. And I was a bit traumatised about shortbread because I remember making it in home economics when I was 11, and I put too much butter in and fucked it. And it sort of scarred me a little bit. I kind of realised yesterday. But yeah, I made an arse of it yesterday because my butter wasn't soft enough. So my dough was too crumbly. So they were a bit uneven. But the ones that I made today, like I softened the butter and they came out a lot better. So
I'm delighted to hear that your softened butter led to better shortbread.
I'm not bad at cooking because I've got a few things in my repertoire that go down quite well, but baking is something that I've just never really got to grips with, So my other news is I went to see The Suicide Squad last week with my daughter, my 13-year-old daughter, not realising just how gratuitously violent it would be. But because it was the Middle East premiere, my friend got his tickets, and we got free t-shirts and this rather nice The Suicide Squad notebook that I'm using for my Swally notes. I know I'm showing it to you, the listeners at home will only have to imagine its splendour, but it's got a nice little notebook. It's got a little placeholder with a little metal Suicide Squad kind of logo there.
Oh, look at that, very fancy.
Yeah, I can recommend it. It's a good night out. Maybe just don't take your 13-year-old daughters or sons because it's pretty violent.
Speaking of violence, shall we have a look at what's been going on in Scotland this last couple of weeks?
That's a brilliant segue. Cue the jingle.
This is the Outer Hebrides Broadcasting Corporation, and here is what's been going on in the news.
Okay, I mean, I think we have had a little bit of we haven't been violent recently on the Swally, and I genuinely saw a story this week about someone pleasuring themselves, and I purposefully avoided it, even though it would have been brilliant for the Swally, but I am still on a wanking ban. So, what have you seen this week that has caught your eye, Greg?
Well, if you're on a wanking ban, I'm not sure whether I should lead with this story, to be honest.
I'm on a wanking ban. I think you're okay. I just had too many wanking stories.
My story doesn't involve masturbation, but it does involve an X-rated model. I actually kept this story back from our last episode. There is a bar near Glasgow called There's a bar in Glasgow near Ibrox called the Louden Tavern, and the headline, yeah, you've probably seen it from the outside a few times. Gers topless Lana Wolf barred from the Glasgow Rangers pub, the Louden Tavern, after posing for a topless snap. The X-rated model took to Twitter to share the racy pic that she took outside the Louden Tavern, which is on Copeland Road in Govan. She's sitting on what looks to be like a beer garden, and she said that the bosses of the Louden Tavern have banned her from the famous supporters venue over the pic. Lana said, "Can't believe I'm barred from the Louden for this photo." The post proved popular with her fans, racking up thousands of likes, shares and comments. The Louden Tavern has been approached for comment by the Scottish Sun, but they have declined to comment so far. So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure when the Louden Bar got so Puritan. Maybe they're going back to their strict Protestant 19th century ideals, but they're not impressed.
Before I say it, I was going to say I am familiar with this model, not in that way.
Right.
She was in the papers quite a lot, I think, during Scotland's Euro campaign, because she went down to London and she was getting up to all sorts of things with the Tartan Army, getting her tits out and just generally being quite boisterous. I mean, she's a porn star, so I guess that's what she does. She has to probably try and sell her OnlyFans account and stuff. How are we getting on with our OnlyFans account, by the way, Greg? We've never actually got that set up.
Yeah, I'll get round to it.
So I have seen her in the newspapers, so I am quite surprised, because she's a pretty big Rangers fan, I think. So for her to be banned from the Louden Tavern is quite a shameful situation. It would be like me being banned from the Broad Hill Bar when, I used to go to Pittodrie every week. I mean, it's long shut down.
I was going to say, I thought I was going to be the person to break that news to you there, mate. I'm really glad to hear it. I had my 21st birthday in the Broad Hill Bar. Well, she actually ended up, you mentioned that she had been travelling down to Wembley for Scotland's game against England. She actually caught sepsis when she was in London.
Is that all she caught?
Well, she's claiming it's sepsis. I'm not sure. But yeah, apparently she ended up in hospital fighting the nasty bug after travelling down to the capital for the England v Scotland Euro clash, and she wasn't able to return. She wasn't able to get back since the game. This article I think they played on the 18th of June. This article went out on the 27th of July, and I don't think she wasn't able to get back for a couple of weeks because she was stuck in the hospital. Poor old Lana. But yeah, I've got to laugh. Like, the picture of the Louden Tavern behind Lana has got a banner up saying, "From Merseyside to Clydeside, welcome to the most..." I can't see what it says because there's an umbrella in the way. I think it's maybe famous. Welcome to the most famous football club in the world, Steven Gerrard. I've got a bit of a story about the Louden, because when I worked in Glasgow, do you remember when the smoking ban came in Scotland? Yeah. In 2005. So we had to, I worked for a branded restaurant chain at the time, and we had to, we sort of scrambled to build patios so people could sit outside and smoke. And the Scottish licensing system's quite a complex thing to navigate anyway, but in Glasgow it's particularly complex because in Glasgow, for obvious reasons, they don't like you drinking outside, really. We sort of ruined it for ourselves over the years. And so I had to go to licensing hearings in the city chambers for a few of the restaurants. And, city chambers, it's a council meeting, so you go suited and booted. It can be a bit of a boring day. You basically sit and wait for your case to come up in front of the board. But in the meantime, you get to watch everybody else's cases come up. And the Louden Tavern were applying for a beer garden for the same license for the same reason as us. The guys turned up I mean, people will hear this and think that I'm making it up. I promise I'm not, right? This is if I'd had a camera phone at the time, I'd have taken a picture. They turned up. There's the two guys. I don't know if it's still the same guys that run it. I don't know if it's changed hands or not, but in 2005, these two guys turned up. They were running Louden Tavern. They were wearing Wrangler jeans, with the classic black and white Adidas leather Sambas. One of them was wearing a Rangers home strip. The other one was wearing the away strip.
Now, I was hoping you were going to say it was the away strip.
There was some gaps in there because you have to go with your licensing lawyer. You just turn up on your own. You got to turn up with your representation. You're just there in case the licensing lawyer can't answer any of the questions. Or is caught out by a question or two. And so the board said, we're not going to grant the license at this time. And one of the guys said, how? It was really, really, really funny. And they fucking stamped out of there. The council was like, look, we need some more information. We need to come and see where it's going to be, blah, blah, blah. And they fucking stamped out in a right huff.
Oh, well, so, yeah. They won't be welcoming Lana Wool in their beer garden anytime soon.
No. I mean, the beer garden looks like shite anyway. I'm looking at it. Anyway, that's my first story. What's your first story this week?
Well, I've got a lovely story. We all love a wedding, don't we, Greg? It's a big thing, and we've all kind of been... we've had to postpone our big wedding twice. Not you and I, me and my wife. I mean, we did get married in the registry office, but, the celebration we've had to postpone twice because, of course, of the big flying virus. However, one couple found a little way around that. So a loved-up Scots couple have tied the knot on a remote beach, and they became the talk of the island after having a random pet goat as their only guest. Neil and Corey Glenn didn't want any fuss of a typical wedding and decided to elope to the Isle of Jura. Well, what a beautiful place for a wedding.
Yeah,
for a light, intimate ceremony. They got together around 2 years ago, so they jumped on 2 ferries and travelled over to the Inner Hebrides from their home in North Ayrshire at the end of July this year. Bodybuilder Corey, 43, ditched the traditional white dress in favour of a skimpy show bikini, while powerlifter Neil, 40, donned his finest kilt. And there's a photo of them, and they do look very buff in their bikini and kilt, as you would expect from a bodybuilder and a powerlifter.
She must have been freezing.
Yeah, she must have been, yeah, bloody right. So Registrar Heather Cameron had arranged for a special guest, a goat named Raymond, to be present alongside 2 witnesses for their nuptials. Now, Daily Record, this is where you've got it wrong, because you've said the goat was the only guest, but obviously they had 2 witnesses, because otherwise, I don't know how the goat's going to sign the witness papers, but I'm sure it would manage. Anyway, the gym buffs looked stunning as they posed on the deserted beach, while talk of their unusual wedding soon spread amongst bemused Jura residents. Joiner Neil, who's originally from Dumbarton, said, apparently, we were the talk of the island. It's just the way me and my wife are. We like to be very different. We wanted to get married because we're in love and didn't want to share it with anybody. We didn't want a big flash wedding. We just wanted to be us on a nice beach. We didn't know what the weather was going to be like, so we got lucky. I called Heather and asked her, explained what we wanted to do, and I told her I was going to be wearing a kilt and Cora be in a bikini. We wanted something different, so we decided we'd like to have a goat at the wedding too. Once Heather stopped laughing, she said it sounded brilliant and managed to arrange the goat, Raymond, to attend the wedding. We just like to do things our way. We're a bit different from normal. We don't like being chic by copying everyone else. So we got a goat. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, the banter. His name's Raymond, and he lives on the island. I would hope so, because I think that's a bit strange, getting a goat from a different island to come over.
Importing a goat.
One of the things people keep asking us is, why a goat? And that's exactly why. Because it makes people ask the question. I'm losing my rag with this couple. This is fucking ridiculous.
Sound like a pair of wankers.
When you see pictures, you could be mistaken for thinking we're in Spain. Something in the trees in the background. It was lovely. Everything just fell into place. The day was perfect. I can see the photos and it looks fuck all like Spain, mate. It looks like you're on the island of Jura. They originally wanted to go to Miami, but when COVID hit, they couldn't go to Miami. So she said, yeah, the goat was great. I love goats, and I just thought it would be something different. I just got back to work today, and the guys got me a baby cuddly toy of a goat, so was very happy about that. She said, yeah, I don't like to be like everyone else, and I like to do things that no one else has done before. I think people have probably been married with goats before, so I don't think you've really got that. She was going to go to Morrison's and buy a bouquet of flowers, but then her friend said, I'll get you a proper bouquet. That's not very different then, is it? Because normal people would get a bouquet of flowers, so she's not doing that good. They want to go on a nice honeymoon, but they know it's not the correct moment to do so, so they're going to wait for better weather and maybe explore more of Scotland soon. It doesn't say if Raymond is going on honeymoon with them, and it doesn't say if Raymond was involved in the wedding night, but I think we'll just leave it up to our listeners to decide if Raymond joined them for the party afterwards. A goat at a wedding, like, they sound like a couple of arseholes, to be honest, don't they?
They sound like a pair of insufferable cunts, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? We'd be like, sorry. I mean, we're in love. We wanted to get married. We didn't want to share it with anybody. I mean, fuck off. Who do you think you are? You know what I mean? Do you invite your mum and dad to your wedding?
Well, they had Raymond. Everybody loves Raymond.
Yeah, we're going to get. Oh, nice. Yeah, like it. We're going to get married in Miami, but there's no goats in Miami, so we went to Jura instead. Get a grip. I mean, the one thing that he said that I was going to agree with him until you said that it didn't look anything like it was sometimes some of those islands up in Scotland on a really sunny day do look a bit tropical from the right angle, like the beach. Like you sometimes see pictures on Facebook and stuff that someone's taken of a really unusually sunny day in one of the islands, and the water's really clear and it does look a bit Mediterranean. But maybe
I'm put off. Maybe I'm being a bit giving them a disservice because it is a beautiful sunny day and there's not a cloud in the sky in their wedding photos. Maybe it's the fact that he's wearing a kilt and they're standing kind of by the water's edge and there's quite a lot of sludge around them, and they're both cuddling a goat. So I haven't seen many Mediterranean weddings that...
I need to get a look at it. I've just typed...
You see a guy in a kilt.
Here we go. I typed in Raymond the Goat wedding, and for some reason, Ray off Everyone Loves Raymond popped up there. So I typed in Isle of Jura afterwards, and I've landed on the article. I mean, here we go. I mean, they look, I guess, until you read the interview, if you just see the picture, they look like quite a nice couple, a bit eccentric maybe, on the beach. Yeah. She's got her shoes in her bare feet. They got a sunny day, but yeah. But he's flexing his muscles. What a wanker.
I think we need to remember here that Neil and Corey Gren are a power lifter and a bodybuilder. So from all of us at the Swally, we would like to offer you our sincerest congratulations on your wedding. We hope you're very happy together and you had a lovely day. The photos look amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're not a pair of insufferable cunts.
But I'm sure it's just the way the Scottish, the day the record has made you look, probably misquoted. We work hard. Wait a minute though. We work hard and we know we look good. So we like to play on it a wee bit by calling ourselves Team Chocolate. What the fuck is all that about?
I left that bit out. I didn't think that painted them in the best of lights. I don't know what that Team Chocolate's about. I mean, I would call them Team Chocolate, but not in the same way.
I mean,
you look like a fucking chocolate.
Yeah, I've not heard anybody call anybody that for years and years. That's a right northeast thing.
I don't think you'd be allowed to do that nowadays, though, would you?
No, I guess not. It could be taken the wrong way.
Anyway, let's move on from Team Chocolate. What else have you seen this week that has caught your eye? Anything involving goats?
I don't know why that story's got under my skin so much. Fucking piss me off. No. My story is about a creature, but it's about depends how you feel about it. A legend, a creature of legend, a real creature. It's not for us to say. This headline comes from the Scottish Sun. It says, Lake News, Loch Ness tourist savages landmark in scathing TripAdvisor review after failing to spot the legendary monster. This is on the 13th of August. So it's Lake News. I just feel like the Scottish Sun have just stopped trying with their headlines. You know what I mean? Anyway, it says, a Loch Ness tourist has hilariously slammed the hotspot after failing to spot its legendary monster. The writer, known only as Ron, left a TripAdvisor review after driving more than 400 miles with his family in search of the infamous creature. But after spending hours in search of Nessie, the dad told of his bitter disappointment. He gave Loch Ness just 1 star, writing, "What a disappointment. We travelled 400 miles from Grimsby to see the Loch Ness monster, and it didn't show up. Don't go if you're wanting to see it. because you will end up bitterly disappointed, like we were. Wife and 2 kids waited around for hours. Viewpoints were crowded and dirty. The weather was terrible. One moment sunshine, the next... It was hard to keep up. I thought the whole experience was horrendous. I just wish I hadn't bothered. It's just a tourist trap, and I'm not sure why they would advertise a Loch Ness Monster when it's all a lie. There's much better places in Scotland. We won't be coming back. A screenshot of the review, which was shared last Wednesday, was posted online with the caption, "Maybe they were just unlucky." The post now has over 325 likes, with around 100 people commenting on the bizarre review. Reviewer Gary Phillips said, "It must just be your bad luck. We're camping by the loch, and Nessie's just come out straight in front of us. It's awesome. Then if that wasn't enough, a UFO just flew over. What a day. I love Scotland." Nicky Parrott replied that Nessie doesn't like midges, so she swam south. Gary Park added, plenty of monsters in Grimsby, mate. Why travel to see one?" The family will be even more disappointed as reports claim that Nessie was spotted for the second time in 11 days earlier this month. A tourist claimed to have seen the creature rise 2 feet from the water, giving the visitor the fright of his life. The other day, the Sun told how Google Maps has got a glitch, which apparently left users in hysterics after an X-ray naked guy.
I saw this, yeah.
Yeah. So people hoping to see Nessie certainly got an eyeful, but of a very different kind. Instead of the mythical creature protruding from Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands, users were met with a stark naked man. The unclad bloke has taken a selfie in what appears to be his patio.
I mean, Nessie isn't a one-eyed monster anyway, so I don't know what the...
Certainly not. There is a distinct possibility that the Scottish Sun seems unlikely to entertain that review might be someone just having a laugh.
It surely has to be. There's no way that can be serious. Has he ever seen Jurassic Park? Is he going to be expecting dinosaurs? There's no way that can be real. It has to be a joke. But they've reported that as serious. If it is serious, then wow. I think I need to be having some serious words with that gentleman and his family.
Yeah, no. I mean, the thing is, you just wouldn't go on to like TripAdvisor or Twitter and say anything negative about Scotland, because as I'm sure we've covered in the Swally before, nobody does Twitter better than the good people of Scotland. Yeah, and they will shut you down and make you look very foolish indeed, much like reviewer Gary Park with his plenty of monsters in Grimsby little one-liner. Have you ever been disappointed? Have you ever gone anywhere based off TripAdvisor? Well, not even TripAdvisor, but someone said, "Oh, you've got to go and visit that, stay in that hotel or go to that place, it's really good," and then gone and found it to be lacking in your expectations?
I can't think now. I think there has been a few maybe restaurants. I think maybe my good lady wife and I have been visiting a country, or we've had a look on TripAdvisor to go somewhere. It's come highly recommended. We've gone there and it's been absolute dog dirt. So we kind of learned quickly, do not go on TripAdvisor for any recommendations. I can't think of anywhere that I've maybe been that someone's recommended that I've thought was absolute shite. Nothing springs to mind off the top of my head. What about yourself?
I don't think so. I don't know. And I suspect that I might share a bit of this DNA with you, but I don't really like being recommended things. I don't know if it is. So it says, I'll take a recommendation off you because you and I have got a lot in common, and if you like something, there's a good chance I'll like it. But if somebody I don't know very well, say, or my mother, she's another person that I don't take recommendations off. I don't know why. It's just I just don't like being told what to do. I'll find my own nice place to go, and then I'll tell you about it.
Yeah. I think I'm just generally quite sceptical, and actually my wife will be listening to this, so she can let me know once she's heard this. There have probably been quite a lot of times she has come home or she said, "Oh, so-and-so is recommended here," or "So-and-so is recommended here," and she'll describe it for a minute and I will just say, "Nah, that sounds shite." And we generally won't go. Because I could just tell from the description, nah, that's not something I'm going to be enjoying. I don't like doing stuff, mate. I don't like going out. I don't like interacting with people. I don't like having to do that. So if I'm doing it, it has to be something very worthwhile. Otherwise, I'm happy just sitting at home, playing with my dog. And otherwise, no, it has to be something spectacular. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't take recommendations that often. People don't know what to recommend to me anyway, because
they don't know you because you don't.
They don't know me. I don't let people in. This is the most I give on this podcast. People don't know what to recommend to me. So
I always think really carefully before recommending something to you, because there's something quite crushing when you're just like, yeah, nah, that doesn't sound like... When I recommended that Rockin' Tours podcast with Guy Pratt and Gary Kemp, and when you came back to me and said, oh, it's really good, you've been listening to a few episodes, I was like...
I'm really enjoying it, yeah.
Yes!
Yeah. I've been picking and choosing the episodes, but I'm really enjoying... There's something really good about... I think it's because a lot of the guests they have on are people... I loved listening to, Dave Stewart, and I listened to the Adam Copeland one? No. Adam Copeland? No. Stuart Copeland. Stuart Copeland. Adam Copeland's a WWE wrestler. He's Edge in WWE. That's his real name. So been loving listening to stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of stuff I would recommend. You know what I like? Anything.
I know, but sometimes I get it wrong. You know what I mean? I'm always really careful. So what I'll say is, oh, I saw this, or I listened to this. I really liked it, but I'll be careful not to say you should listen to it or you should watch it.
Listen to it. Okay.
Yeah. When I get one right, it's always a good feeling. You know?
I won't recommend not Loch Ness then. You know something? I'm going to pass on this next story.
Okay.
It was a story that I saw today in the Scottish Sun just earlier on, but it's about a couple. And judging on the story I told about the last couple, I think this might send you into a rage because... It's genuinely horseshit story. It's about a couple who took a selfie in the north of Scotland, and they have said how close they became to death. And effectively, in the photograph, their hair is kind of standing up, and they're convinced that they were about to be struck by lightning.
Right.
Honestly, it looks like it was just a fucking windy day. So, and they've churned this out into a full story about how they ended up walking back to the car and telling people that don't go there, it's going to be lightning, and they were Googling, and it did rain that day, and they have no idea how unbelievably lucky we both are to be here safe and alive. So I'm not going to do that because that'll boil my piss as well. Let's go for a little old school story. This is something you don't see nowadays that often, and we should bring it back. This is from last week, and it's from the Daily Record as well. So this is about a shocked Scots homeowner who has told how he captured two shadowy figures stealing milk and other daily products from her doorstep. The alleged theft was filmed on their Ring camera. So two hooded figures pulled up in a car, ran out the car, nicked our milk, and I think our eggs and our yogurt, got back in the car and sped off at high speed. They posted the footage on social media, and other residents in Dalkeith, Midlothian, claimed that the same thing had happened to them, with items going missing from their doorsteps over the last couple of weeks. So this initial video was filmed in the early hours of the 6th of August, and it sees two hooded individuals wearing tracksuits approaching the property, picking up the dairy delivery, and then taking off at high speed in the vehicle. The Dalkeith resident who captured the footage on a Ring camera told Edinburgh Live, "I hope they choke on my yogurts. They stole our milk, our yogurt, our eggs, and we were done out of our Weetabix." I'm trying to see the funny side of this, but obviously I feel bad for the milk company as so many people will stop ordering now. This is the first time it's happened to us, but looking at the comments on my post, it seems to be happening all the time. Other people living in Dalkeith area have also reported their dairy products stolen, with one person saying, "I caught them stealing mine the other week." Another said, "We've had a lot of problems recently. The police do actually want it reported, so they can hopefully do something about it. We had all of ours stolen last week." A third said, "Yeah, we also had our milk stolen by the same people, and we caught them on our Ring camera too. We called the police, and they took a report. Police Scotland have been contacted for comment." I didn't realise people still got their milk delivered properly, like yogurts and eggs on their doorstep. Like, surely it's just asking for trouble.
I think it went away for a while. When I was a teenager, I delivered the milk when we lived in Barrow and Furness.
Oh, yeah, were you?
Well, I think I just thought I helped the milkman. It was good money. I used to do the milk and the papers. But it was glass bottles. And I remember when we lived in Glasgow, when my oldest daughter was born, somebody came and chapped the door and asked if he could add us to his milk rounds. And so we used to get get, but it was like a 2-litre carton that would get delivered every day.
Okay.
So they obviously do, I don't know if they still do the glass bottles, but I can tell you, what I will say, and anyone that's delivered a milk will attest to this, when you're collecting the empty bottles in the winter, you couldn't really wear woolly gloves. And like when you're a 13-year-old kid, the only gloves you have are like woolly gloves because the bottles will slip out. So you got to do your bare hands. It was really, really
that's
cold.
hard work.
Yeah, it was just cold. It was fine in the summer, but it was cold. It was cold in the winter. Yeah, so there's like these Dalkeith dairy junkies.
Like, surely if they're speeding about in a car, going from door to door, like, petrol is surely more expensive than milk. Like, are they doing it for the thrill, or have they developed some sort of Doc Brown DeLorean on a car that is powered on eggs, milk and yogurt? And they're trying to get up to 88, a dairy-powered DeLorean in Dalkeith.
I need to write that down for the Instagram post.
That's I wonder why they're doing that. Like, there's not a lot of value in that, surely. Why wouldn't you go and ram raid a farm or something if you're...
Nick a cow and it's just there on tap. You don't have to go out robbing a cow in your living room, just firing at milk all day, keeping your grass short.
The reason I had to come up with that story is because it was so old school in terms of Nick and milk. And when we envisaged the Swally, that was the kind of petty news stories I kind of wanted to cover in terms of, someone found a shoe in a lane and they're looking for the owner, or someone's nicking milk off someone's doorstep. Like, I just didn't realise that type of thing existed. I'd imagine, you are probably right, I bet milk deliveries and egg deliveries came back probably in the last year because of lockdown, because a lot of people wouldn't have been able to get out. So I'd imagine those companies did do, they were offering good service and helping people a lot. And that's true. Maybe we shouldn't be making light of this because maybe they've stolen milk and eggs from people that couldn't get out and didn't need it, but it is fucking funny.
Yeah. I can remember, like, my mum still got the milk delivered, like, when I still lived at home and long after I left home. And the only sort of theft we had to worry about was sometimes, like, birds would fly and peck in the foil lids. Yeah. You know what I mean? They would peck a hole in the lids to get to the milk and stuff. Or sometimes, like, the cream at the top of the milk would freeze in the winter if you didn't get your bottles in sort of quick enough. And especially in the northeast of Scotland in the winter, it can be fucking chilly, right? So, but I mean, I quite like the, I think there's maybe just because I'm a real nostalgia sort of junkie. I like the sort of things that remind me of when I was a kid, like the milk getting delivered and the paper, the guy coming round for his milk money on a Friday night and doing a big jobby in the bathroom, stinking out our wee flat. But it's just a simpler time.
Never mind. Okay. Anything else you've seen this week, Greg?
No, that's all my stories. Do we have a current sponsor this week?
Oh, we certainly do. Let's have a little word from our sponsor.
Open in Barhead, there's a great new supermarket and loads of shops with bags of choice. Where does she get the money? There's even mini shops and a restaurant all under one roof.
Fancy a horse in the pub, son?
And it's only a step from your car. The Westbourne Centre, Barhead, shopping at its best in the West.
You should have taken a trolley, you skip it.
So, it was your choice this week for our Swally review. Why don't you introduce us?
Well, thank you very much, Greg. Yeah, so I wanted to discuss a film on the Swally that I'd never actually seen. And I mentioned last time that I've never seen this film up until doing it. So I want to discuss the 2012 comedy drama directed by Ken Loach and written by his longtime partner, Paul Laverty, The Angel Share, released in 2012 and starring Paul Brannigan, John Henshaw, and William, we're going to say Ruane because that's what we said in the Sweet 16 episode, and I think that is probably the correct pronunciation. And set in Glasgow, the film tells the story of Robbie, a young father who narrowly avoids a prison sentence. Determined to turn over a new leaf, a visit to a whisky distillery inspires him and his mates to seek a way out of their hopeless lives. The Angel Share was the winner of the 2012 Cannes Film Festival Jury Prize and released to critical acclaim. Greg, as I say, I'd never seen this before, but what are your first memories and when did you first see The Angel Share?
I only seen it once before and it was round about when it came out. I think I watched it I think maybe I rented it off iTunes or something like that. I always like Ken Loach's films, especially his ones set in Glasgow. He's set in Scotland, rather. I think I think we discussed on Sweet 16, he's good at capturing very true-to-life characters, the way he sort of crafts his films and stuff. So I'd only seen it once before, and the scene that always stuck in my mind is the very, very first scene with Gary Maitland as Albert when he's on the railway platform. And I remember the first time I watched it thinking that I was just on for an absolute laugh riot after that scene.
Had you seen many Ken Loach films before, Greg?
Well, yeah, I mean, but he's, I know he has a theme, but, he's like, I don't know if you've ever seen the Eric Cantona movie that he did.
Yeah.
That's quite a light-hearted movie, So I thought maybe it was going to be along those kind of lines. And, there are some really funny moments in it. I think for a Ken Loach film, I don't think he's particularly, his stories or his movies rather are particularly gloomy. But there's not that many of them have a particularly uplifting ending. And
no.
The Angel Share does. It all kind of works out for everybody, pretty much, I enjoyed watching it again. I really did. I enjoyed it more watching it this time, I think, than I did the first time I watched it. But did you enjoy the film?
The first note I could bring you to is that my last note is a happy ending in a Ken Loach film. It's incredible and so delighted. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I have no idea how this... Actually, I do have an idea how this escaped me. 2012, I was living in Dubai, so this wouldn't have been released there or widely released.
Yeah.
But at that time, I would have been listening to Mark Commode and Simon Mayo's podcast every week. And Mark Commode is a huge Ken Loach fan. I think probably one of his second filmmakers next to Bill Forsyth is Ken Loach. And I went back and listened to the review of this, and I remember listening to it when it first went out, and I genuinely do not know how this film escaped. I'd obviously found out about it more recently doing research for the Swally and read about the cast and thinking, I need to watch that. But I think in the back of my mind, I thought, I'll save it for the Swally. I really enjoyed it. It's such a strange film because, as you say, one of my first notes was, this is a Ken Loach film because it's dripping in realism. The scenes, even as you say, the opening scene with Albert and instantly Ford Kiernan as the Tannoy announcer, and straight away you know who it is with the voice. You're like, that's Ford Kiernan, and I hadn't even looked at the proper full cast, and I'm like, oh my god, it's Ford Kiernan, and straight away I'm like, that's Sidekick from Sweet 16.
Oh shit!
See, look what you've done now, you fucking imbecile. Get off that track, there's a train coming through here in seconds.
What the fuck was that, you asshole? I fucking nearly broke my bow.
Fuck the ball, get off the track. Hurry up, get a fucking move on.
Can't I find my glasses?
This is God calling. Get off the fucking track, will you? Get a fucking move on or you're gonna die.
Fuck me.
Move it, you fucking asshole.
And the ridiculousness of that, and then you're straight into the court scene, and the court scene is so real, and all I can think of is they must have filmed that in a real court. A lot of those people must have been genuine non-actors, and that's the same with a lot of Ken Loach films, as we'll come on to, Paul Brannigan, for example, this is his first role, and he's very true to the Robbie character he portrays.
Yeah.
Dripping in realism, but also with a bit of ridiculousness. Because this is a film of two halves. It's a Ken Loach melodrama about the struggle of unemployment and people that have been kind of wronged and are trying to redeem themselves. And then it's a ridiculous Ocean's 11 kind of Mission Impossible heist film in the end, but dripping with comedy as well. And it's just the two of them melded together. They shouldn't work, but they do, because Ken Loach just puts them, and I should say Paul Laverty as well. He's the one that's written this.
Yeah.
It just works. And even later in the film, when you're thinking this is ridiculous, and there are 2 points in this film that I do think are utterly ridiculous. Only 2. There's a few other things, but they just work. You just kind of let them go because, hey, it's a good film.
Yeah.
It's so, like I say, it's dripping in kind of melodrama, but it's so kind-hearted and just nice. And genuinely, as we discuss the film later on, there are, towards the end, I'm genuinely tense. And I have genuine emotion dripping out of me at certain points that I really enjoyed this film though today. I thought it was great.
Yeah, you're sort of waiting for it all to go horribly wrong. Like compare this to two of Ken Loach's other sort of Scotland set movies, like Sweet 16 that we covered on an earlier episode, and My Name is Joe, which I'm sure we'll get round to doing in the future. And like in both of those films, there's a point where everything is going well for the main characters. Like in My Name is Joe, Joe's, he's formed a relationship, he's helping his friends, and all that kind of thing. In Sweet 16, the whole drugs operation's going really well. And
he's got his caravan.
He's got his caravan, he's got his flat in Greenock and everything. And then by the end, it's all gone fucking terribly wrong for both the characters.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of what you're waiting for. I mean, I've not seen A Fond Kiss. Maybe we'll do that. That's another Scottish one that Ken Loach did.
Yeah, never seen that, but yeah.
So I don't know how that sort of shakes out. I know what it's about. Yeah, you're just waiting for it all to go wrong for Robbie, and because it's really his story. I mean, the rest of the cast are brilliant. It's great seeing William Ruan, who appeared to double in height from when he played pinball to when he stars in this film. I mean, I know it's like 9 years later or something, or 10 years later, but he's fucking tall as fuck. And obviously Gary Maitland, who, I mean, I was looking at his IMDb. He's only got like sort of 3 acting credits. And and like we've touched on it before, like Ken Loach, he doesn't have a lot of like actors as such in his productions. I mean, there's John Henshaw in this one, who's one of those guys that he's in everything. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then Roger Allam is the whiskey collector, who's quite a distinguished actor and singer. But the rest are just, like obviously Paul Brannigan's kind of pulled a career out of it. The wee girl who plays Mo has done a few bits. I think she got River City. She's done a couple of TV shows. William Ruan is never too far away from like Scottish productions. But the rest are just like the guy who is the host at the whiskey tasting. Is not an actor. He was an advisor that they used for some whiskey knowledge on the production, and then they got him in. The auctioneer who auctions off the whiskey is a real life auctioneer, and you feel like to your point, like you feel like the people playing the briefs and the judge in the court, they feel that it feels like they're probably that is probably their job. To your point, they're not actors playing legal people,
and that's why it feels so real. And that's exactly what you say. Charlie MacLaine, who plays Rory McAllister, who is the master of the quake. I've read a few articles this week. He is a genuine master of the quake whiskey expert. Ken Loach and Paul Laverty approached him. He took them to some samplings. He took them to a whiskey auction to show them how it works. And at that point, Ken Loach effectively turned round and offered him the role. And it's just so real. And that's what you need. To be fair, when you do have Joy McAvoy doing the whiskey tour, she's very believable. And that's what I like. Did you notice in the whiskey tour, there is one point she trips over and there's one point she stumbles her lines. And it's kept in to add to the realism, because that type of thing would happen. And I think that's wonderful with the Charlie MacLaine role, that it's a real life person and you believe, because he is a genuine whiskey expert and he is genuinely conveying the emotion that he feels. You can't really falsify that in terms of
playing himself. Did you spot 2 former Dundee United players in small roles?
I certainly did, yes. So one was Charlie Miller,
Andy McLaren,
So one was playing Leonie's uncles, in the hospital,
and the other plays the father of the young guy that Robbie's in trouble for beating up, and they have the sort of meeting, the kind of reconciliation. Well, I guess it's not really, there's no reconciliation in that scene at all. It's a really difficult scene to watch, and it's almost, I don't know, it's sort of tonally it almost sort of doesn't sort of fit in with the rest of the film to some extent, and it kind of made me think to myself, well, like when the guy's describing his injuries and then the mother is describing the impact that it's had on his life, and you find yourself thinking, well, has Robbie maybe got off a bit easily with just community service? And he's blinded the guy, he's broken his ribs.
Well, that was my thought, because Robbie, obviously, this is the one aspect I do find a little bit unbelievable, the first aspect. So obviously, Robbie's in court for battering Clancy and his mates. I can only presume, because do you know anyone called Clancy that would be knocking about Glasgow? I can only presume that his parents were Highlander fans and have named him after Clancy Brown.
Right.
So he's been battering the hell out of Clancy and his mates. They're in this war. Their dads have fought all their lives. They're fighting now. Robbie gets off with 300 hours community service. He's already done time for the attack that he did on the guy that we meet later on when he's coked up to his eyeballs. There's no way that's happening. I know that he's about to become a father in 10 days' time. If he's already done a prison sentence, there's no way he's getting off with 300 hours community service for permanently scarring those guys. Not a chance. He's going back inside. So that's the first thing. Especially when Albert gets 180 hours for, falling onto a rain line when he was pished. That's not right. He gets 180 hours for, falling onto a rail line whilst drinking strong fortified wine. Robbie gets to beat the fuck out of the two of them and just gets 120 hours more. Nah, no chance. That's very unrealistic.
The thing I do like about that initial scene, the court scene where, it's essentially, it's quite a clever way of introducing us to the characters.
Yeah.
And it's quite a subtle sort of means of exposition. So that you know everything that you need to know about Robbie, Rhino, Albert. You know what I mean?
And what I like is that you see a few other characters that, don't appear again in the film. So it's very much you're almost seeing a day in the life of the court. And I did like that you see some characters that you don't see again.
The other thing about it is, like you touched on Paul Brannigan. And I didn't know an awful lot about him. I'd obviously seen him in this before. He pops up in Sunshine on Leith, doesn't he, as like the injured fellow soldier of the two other guys. And he's got a part in Under the Skin. Three places in the Swally Tally. But because I watched there's a wee documentary on YouTube about the making of The Angel's Share, and it talks about his own story and how Ken Loach, or rather Paul Laverty, found them running a kind of youth group. But he had been in prison before, and he had a little boy around about that time, and he did a lot of problems with like drugs and fighting and gangs and stuff, just like Robbie. And his way to being in the film was Paul Laverty approached him and asked him to go, and he thought that he was being asked to go again. Didn't realise he was going to audition. He thought it was going to have to go and talk about his life again, and he was kind of fed up doing that. He'd lost the job that he had. They didn't say why he lost it, but he sort of hints at, like, he sort of suggests that he probably fucked it up himself for maybe sort of dropping into old behaviours or something. And so he didn't show up for the audition, and Paul Laverty had to go and find them and sort of give him a bit of a metaphorical kick up the arse to go along and audition and stuff. And I think you had to look at his IMDb, and he's got quite a lot on there, considering that he's only been acting for sort of 8 years. He's fairly racked up the movies and the TV shows.
But he's really good and believable in this. And obviously, as you say, his third appearance in Swally, Under the Skin and in Sunshine on Leith, he does have very small roles. Here, he is the central character, and he does deliver a really believable performance. He does remind me of Martin Compston, really, in Sweet 16. And I think that is detriment to Ken Loach getting that out of his performers. He's able to bring that out, because again, Sweet 16 was Martin Compston's first role, really, wasn't it? So
totally.
He finds these random actors that he just gets it out of them, and it's the realism that is just so believable that sucks you into the role. You really believe in the character of Robbie.
Well, he ended up actually appearing in a movie, with Martin Compston called Scottish Muscle. It's got Joe Thomas off the In-Betweeners in it as well. I've not seen it. I seem to remember, I feel like I saw a trailer when it was released or something, and it got panned a little bit. I think Martin Compston only had sort of 1 or 2 series of Line of Duty under his belt at that point. I don't think Line of Duty had really blown up in the way it has over the last kind of few years. And obviously Joe Thomas was probably still riding the In-Betweeners beginner's wave, you know. So, you know, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think, you know, because like Peter Mullen and Shane Meadows, who directed This Is England and A Room for Romeo Brass and lots of other movies, I think they work in very sort of similar way to Ken Loach. And in that documentary that I watched about the Angels Share, William Ruan was saying, like, you know, like you get the script, but then you don't know what you're doing the next day. He said, like, they think they were shooting the scene in the cemetery, and then they find out, you know, like we're going to go through to Edinburgh in a couple of days, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then you sort of get the script pages for that day. But the script is, you know, Ken Loach apparently is always very much, well, you know, say it how you would say it, you know, like it doesn't have to be verbatim to what's written on the page, you know, like express it in the way that you would express it, which is quite a brave thing to do. But I guess, you know, he's been Ken Loach has been directing since the mid 1960s, you know, obviously starting off on the things like the Wednesday Play and Play for Today and stuff, and then like famously Kes is his sort of breakthrough film. But even if you watch Kes, you know, the actor that plays Casper, the main character in Kes, he wasn't an actor, he was just a kid that they found running about. Sheffield, it's set, isn't it? You know, there's a couple of people that became famous actors, like Brian Glover and Lynn Perrier, which became Ivy Tilsley in Coronation Street. But, like, yes. You know what I mean? So these are, you just sort of trusts that he can, you know, he must know exactly what he wants on the screen, you know, and in a way that, you know, like you hear about directors like Kubrick or Francis Ford Coppola, people like that who are very, you know, like Kubrick especially is like famous for making Shelley Duvall almost have a nervous breakdown on the set of The Shining, for making her do like a take after take after take after take. Whereas, you know, like I don't know, I think there must be something when you see Ken Loach being interviewed and stuff like that. He's quite a unassuming sort of. You can't imagine him losing his patience, you know? And like you see footage of him directing and stuff, and I was watching a bit of that today on that documentary. And like all the young actors are obviously really comfortable with him. You know, obviously William Ruan and Gary Maitland have got experience with working with them before on Sweet 16. And yeah, just to your point, he just gets these really natural performances. And, you know, for people who know Glasgow or know Scotland, like, you know characters like that, and they express themselves in exactly the way that Ken Loach gets them to do on the screen, you know?
Whenever I see Ken Loach in an interview, and I watched a couple of interviews of him discussing The Angel's Share and Sweet 16, the fondness of the way he speaks about his actors is the way he was speaking about Paul Brannigan, and the way that, you know, and he does say, you know, Paul found him and he was just perfect, and he says, you know, effectively we kind of made him audition. He skips over him going maybe back into old ways and missing a couple of auditions, but he's like, we took him back a few times and we didn't really need to, because we knew instantly this was our Robbie. And I think it's a testament to the fact that he casts actors he's worked with before in multiple films. So you can speak about Gary Maitland, you can speak about you know, William Ruan. He takes them back because he knows he can trust them, and he knows he can work well with them. And I think that is and they're natural as well, which I think is a big thing. And they are so natural in the roles, just the way they're so believable, that the way they put that across. Yeah.
You mentioned that sort of on the same sort of subject. You mentioned earlier how the movie won the Palme d'Or in Cannes. So there was a little bit of kind of controversy, sort of quiet controversy came out of the movie. When we did Sweet 16, we spoke about how they worked really hard to get it a 15 rating. You know, and Martin Compston felt particularly strong about it because he wanted it to be a sort of example for kids the same age as the characters in the film. You know, so they will hopefully see it as a detriment to getting involved in that sort of lifestyle.
Yeah.
They wanted to get Sweet 16 a 15 rating. They showed a cut version, The Angel's Share a 15 rating, and they showed a slightly cut version of the movie in Cannes to the jury, which had a few of the cunts taken out. In the cut version, there's only 8 uses of the word cunt. In the uncut version, there's 15. But there was a little bit of a thing in the media with the BBFC and Ken Loach himself 12. So BBFC, so their statement on a 15 rating, it says there may be frequent use of strong language, for example, fuck. The strongest terms, for example, cunt, may be acceptable if justified by the context. Aggressive or repeated use of the strongest language is unlikely to be acceptable in awarding a 15 rating. So Ken Loach said in Digital Spy, we were allowed 7 cunts, but only 2 of them could be aggressive cunts. The British middle class is obsessed by what they call bad language. The odd oath they will ask you to cut, but the manipulative and deceitful language of politics they use themselves, so I think we should re-examine what we mean by bad language and have respect for our ancient oaths and swear words, which we all enjoy. So Ken Loach, obviously, likes a bit of the old industrial language. The Guardian weighed in on the dispute. You wee cunt is often a term of endearment, but the BBFC transpose it as if you were on a public address system at the Royal Opera. They take it out of context. They have an obsession with that word. There are many films they have given a 15 certificate to, I think, are full of pornographic violence or racism or cruelty that is not fit for 15-year-olds, and they show that with no problem at all. So I think there is a tremendous hypocrisy. The Daily Telegraph got involved, and they, believe it or not, agreed with The Guardian and Ken Loach. They said the British Board of Film Classification gets barmier by the day. It now tells us that there is an acceptable and unacceptable way to say the word cunt. If, as in Ken Loach's new movie The Angels Share, the characters in a film say that word in an aggressive fashion, then the film will be stamped with an 18 certificate. But if they were to utter the C word in a non-aggressive fashion, then the film could be granted a more lenient, box office friendly 15 certificate. So Loach, whose new film is based in Glasgow, where the C word abounds, has been forced to excise the more aggressive use of the word in order for his film to be a 15. He is rightly annoyed. The only people that have a problem with the word cunt, apart from my mum, are the people on the BBFC in the UK.
Well, I did wonder, because the version of this film I watched is 1 hour and 41 minutes long. And I've seen that the version that is on the BBC iPlayer at the moment is 1 hour 33 minutes long. So they've evidently cut 8 minutes out of the film. Now, I didn't get a chance to watch both versions just to be interested what they'd cut out. I can only presume maybe a little bit of violence. I don't know. Maybe they cut the credits short, but that's quite a lot to cut out.
Yeah, 8 minutes
in terms of bad language, it's a lot. So I might. I think it's still available on the iPlayer for a few months yet. So I might go back and watch it and see what I can notice has been cut out.
Yeah,
I mean, they might have cut out the bat ring Robbie gets in the staircase, because is there a need for that in the film, really? I mean, I know it conveys the fraught relationship he obviously has with his girlfriend's family, but is there a need for that? I guess yes, because it leads to Ken taking him home and then giving him the whiskey, and then that leads to the whole film, but I think you're right. I think it had to be in there for that reason, right? So, because why would Harry sympathise with this young guy? I've called him Ken. The reason is because, obviously, I know John Henshaw from Early Doors. Is what I would generally know him from, where he's Ken, the landlord. So sorry, I've called him Ken. Harry, yes, Harry. Before we get into that, Harry is just the nicest man in the world. Yeah. You almost get the feeling he's trying to make up for something he's done wrong in the past, in terms of, he does mention, I've got 2 daughters who live down south. Yeah. He's up in Glasgow. He's living in a not great flat. Nice. He's doing, work with, obviously, offenders. Mm-hmm. You kind of get the feeling he's trying to right some wrongs he's done previously.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's sort of hinted at. He does have one of my favourite lines when he first gives Robbie the whiskey to taste for the first time, after he takes him back to his house after he's been beaten up in the hospital. And Robbie, like as I'm sure we all did the first time we put whiskey to our lips, we're like, oh, that's horrible. Then he asks to get some Coke. I know that what Harry is trying to say is, you Philistine, but he says, you Philippine.
Fucking hell, Harry, man. Tastes like shit.
You Philippine.
Can I have some Coke tonight?
No. A drop of water.
I think it's because Harry doesn't really swear, and he doesn't want to be offensive, so it's almost like a Tim Vine, almost, that he doesn't swear. He kind of makes up for different words, but He's such a lovely character, which does lead to my second ridiculous thing that happens in the film. Actually, I've got 3 now I think about it. It was Robbie's community service. Number 2 on the hit list, Harry taking them in a van to the distillery. Really? Is that really going to happen? Are you really going to take a bunch of fucking offenders on community service in a van to go and visit a distillery on your day off using the works van? Surely a little bit... bending a little bit of the terms of realism here.
Well, I mean, but Ken Loach describes the film as a fable. He's very, it's not realistic. That scene that you mentioned, the whole way of them stealing the whiskey, the Russian buyer with the Roger Allam's character and everything, and the whiskey goes in iron brew bottles, which is going to change because you see them just pouring their iron brew out on the grass outside the distillery. That's
another thing I wanted to ask.
You would have to boil the bottles and sanitize them for it, because iron brew, it's a sticky and distinctive flavour. It's going to fuck up the whiskey. You touched on it earlier, and I think I watched that Mark Kermode, the same one, and the same review that you did, and he's like, because so much of the film is charming and disarming and funny, and it's easy to let all these sort of nitpicks go a bit. What was your third one?
My third one also involves Harry. Would they really give him $100,000 bottle of whiskey at the end? Really? Are you really going to do that? You've done all the work. Who's this cunt? He's effectively our probation officer, community service worker. Okay, he's a nice guy, but we're going to give him $100,000 bottle of whiskey to sit on his table. Harry's never going to touch that whiskey. And no, I'll take an extra $25,000 in my hipper. Thank you very much. That's what I'll do.
I suppose it's Robbie has done the deal, hasn't he, for the one bottle? And, Harry's the guy that's effectively changed his life. He's turned him onto whiskey. They've discovered together that Robbie's got this really good nose, really strong palate and everything. And, when he drives off to Stirling at the end of the movie in his VW camper van, we're led to believe that he's going on to bigger and better things, getting out of the cycle of violence and antisocial behaviour. It's all because of Harry.
What is your take on whiskey, Greg, in terms of...
I like whiskey.
Yeah,
I like it. Yeah, no, I do. I'm not I wouldn't say I'm a connoisseur. I'm not a big fan of really peaty whiskies like Lagavulin and Lefroy. I don't really like them. But I like a smooth sort of Macallan or Glenfiddich or Glenmorangie, and fuck it, I'll drink a blend if there's nothing else going. But yeah, no, I remember my dad saying to me when I was younger, one of the few pearls of wisdom that he dispatched that actually turned out to be accurate was you never enjoy your first cigarette and you never enjoy your first whiskey. You got to persevere at both. And it wasn't, I've only really discovered a taste for whiskey probably, in all truthfulness, in the last maybe 10, 12 years. What about you? You a fan?
I was when I was younger. When I was quite young. I'd say about maybe 16 or so when I started drinking, and I developed a little taste for whiskey. And then I had a very bad night on whiskey, and I couldn't drink it for about 20 years. Genuinely couldn't even smell it. It's maybe a story I'll tell in the Swally sometimes, sometime later on. It involves the Broad Hill Bar. It involves me. It involves a bottle of whiskey, and it involves me dressed as Shaft. The Richard Roundtree. As in Shaft. Right. As in
John Shaft.
John Shaft, the private sex machine who gets all the chicks.
The Black Private Dick, who's a sex machine with all the chicks.
Yeah. So I might need to carefully choose my words when I tell that story. But yeah, I went to a fancy dress party dressed as Shaft. But yeah, had a good ton of whiskey beforehand. And it wasn't good whiskey. It was the cheap kind of Grant's whiskey type special. Yeah. And that put me off for about 20 years. And it's only, I would say, in the last 7-8 years that I've kind of got back into whiskey. And now I can appreciate it, but not to the level of Robbie or Harry or anything. But I can appreciate a nice whiskey, and I do like a nice whiskey now and again, but I couldn't drink it all the time. But yeah, it's nice. One
thing about whiskey is that I won't get smashed off whiskey because the hangover is keen. I'll generally drink it with just depending on what type it is, I can drink it neat, or sometimes put a wee splash of water in it, depending on what the brand is. But it's the sort of thing that I can have one or two of, in the house if I've got a bottle in, or if I go to see my mum and my stepdad, he likes whiskey, so I might have one or two with him. But it's literally one or two, like I don't drink it to excess.
And so, to get back to the Angel Share, do you think the heist effectively is believable? Do you think they could pull that off?
Not at all. Not at all. But it's like I said before, it doesn't matter. By the time that those characters are going to do that heist, you just want good things to happen for all of them. Even Mo, like the wee shoplifting girl, who doesn't say, she's not big a character as like Albert or Rhino or Robbie, but you still, you're rooting for them, when they hitchhike their way from Hillhead in Glasgow, bizarrely, all the way up to the distillery and got their kilts on and all that kind of thing,
Without Mo, you'd have no heist. She's the one that effectively intervenes and gets Rhino and Albert and herself invited to the whiskey tasting, where she then steals the documents, letting them know about the malt mill. Yeah, so Mo is...
She goes further. She goes further than that even. She's the one that steals all the miniatures from the first distillery that they're sitting about tasting, and I guess that helps to refine Robbie's palate. It kind of gets in his sense of smell and stuff. It gets Rhino a bit more clued in on whiskey.
And that tasting scene is a beautiful way of Ken Loach. Just it's so real in terms of they're just sitting there tasting, and the two guys just sitting there off camera. It's hilarious and comes out with some of the best lines in the film, and that's the realism you get from a Ken Loach film, but it's just it's comedic as well. And that scene reminds me of the scene from Sweet 16 when they are phoning up the stepfather and asking him if he wants to buy any double glazing, and then like, oh, would you like to buy any dildos or something?
And it's a bit like the scene when they're recording the message for Martin Compson's mum.
I hope your porridge is no lumpy, Gene.
So we need to give a few minutes to Gary Maitland as Albert. Because for me, he's the fucking beating heart of this film. You never know what he's going to say. See, when they come up onto Princess Street and he sees Edinburgh Castle for the first time, now they could have stopped with, "What's that?" What is that? But then when Rhino tells him it's Edinburgh Castle, he says, "What'd they put it up there for?"
What? What is that? What are you talking about?
Don't know.
That there? What is that?
But that big thing on top of the hill?
You can't miss that. Look at that.
Aye.
What is that?
That's Edinburgh Castle, Albert.
Is it?
Aye.
What did they put it up there for?
Are you taking the piss?
No. What did they put it up there for? Look at it. Fuck me, man.
Where did they put it up? Where the fuck do I know?
You don't recognise Edinburgh Castle?
Oh. Oh, I wouldn't have been asking you.
Have you been living in a cupboard all your life, or what?
What's the matter with that, Harry?
Is there no shortbread in your house?
You're a fool.
Hey?
Come on, man.
Next time you go home, check all the tins.
He's just absolutely brilliant.
There's a couple of points where I did think, like, okay, this character is maybe a little bit unbelievable in terms of you can maybe take the first scene because he's obviously drunk and he's falling on the railroad tracks, and he's basically a Scottish McLovin in a way.
It's a bit,
in terms of that character. And then when he turns up 2 days late for his work.
2 days early, is it not?
Yeah. Is it because he turns up, it's Wednesday, I don't know, but he says you're 2 days out. I'm never sure if it's 2 days early or 2 days late. It's like 2 days. And then obviously when he's howking at the plaster. But then he comes up with some brilliant bits of genius. He comes up with a kilt idea. And although he is ultimately responsible for what we'll move on to in terms of the scene that left me holding my head in my hands, he does come up with a good solution in terms of... he comes out with this brilliant... It's like he's been listening to TED Talks before... I don't know, but TED Talks weren't around in 2012, so he probably didn't even know that. So he comes out with this brilliant business dynamic of supply and demand, and he is a brilliant character. I have to agree that. I think his best part for me is when they got on the bus full of nuns. And he says, fuck me. Sound of music. Yeah. And reaction is just so like, oh my God. Yeah, but yeah, he is a brilliant character. And
but it's Rhino's line right after that when he's like, sorry sisters, it's me to try and control these Protestants. Something like that.
And then, of course, you get the whole point about his Tadger getting battered with his sporran. Which, now, again, why don't you just put it to the side? Why don't you take the sporran off? If you're roaming around the hills, just take it off, put it over your shoulder. Why has it got to batter your Tadger so much?
I liked Rhino when they're taking photographs with the tourists, and Rhino starts telling one of the girls how it was like the tartan was his great grandfather had been a clan chief and everything, and he's I just feel this pride when I put the kilt on. And the girl's like, is that why you put it on back to front?
It's a brilliant idea though, in terms of if you're going to do something like that, wearing kilts, and it is wonderful the way Robbie has phoned ahead and has set them up as this whisky society, and no one's going to question that, and the guy there is so delighted, and they're so happy to have them. Like, he's chuffed to bits that they're going to get a photograph and everything's going to be great. And would it be okay if we saw the master of the quake in the ceremony? Yeah, of course. It's a fucking genius plan,
and it sort of comes out of nowhere a wee bit. Robbie becomes this like
master
total
criminal.
grifter. Yeah, the completely convincing con artist. The guy who he's conning is just gushing. Him and the woman, the sort of secretary, or the woman that's with him, are just, oh yeah, it's great. They're the Cartine Whiskey Appreciation Society.
Now, I could understand that if it was a case of you never get any visitors to this distillery, and you've got this whiskey society coming here to lavish praise on us. That's amazing. Oh, we never get anyone here. The following day, they have basically got a room full of multi-millionaires willing to bid over £1 million on this cask of whiskey. So why is he gushing over these four cunts who look like an abomination? They look like what they are, just cunts in kilts. It's impressive that he is so enamoured with them, but maybe he's preparing for the big meeting with everyone else tomorrow. Edinburgh Castle. Is that the most iconic thing in Scotland? Because Harry says, have you not got any shortbread? Have you not seen it on a tin? When Albert can't see it. Is Edinburgh Castle on every shortbread tin? I do not believe that to be true, because I've been into my supermarket here and looked at the shortbread, and they do have Scottish imported shortbread, and Edinburgh Castle is not on any of it.
Walkers.
Is Edinburgh Castle the most iconic Scottish landmark? I can think of two more.
I would say that probably the Forth rail bridge is the most iconic landmark in Scotland.
That would be my first choice.
I mean, you could say maybe, I don't know, you could say maybe the Wallace Monument, but I don't think the Wallace Monument is more iconic than Edinburgh Castle.
No, I don't think so. I would have said maybe, I would have said Loch Ness, but it's not iconic in terms of people won't instantly recognise it. That's just a body of water, unless Nessie's head sticking out, which apparently our Grimsby tourists didn't see. So you wouldn't see that. But I would say the Forth Road Bridge would be probably my number one.
Forth Rail Bridge. I thought the road bridge.
Forth Rail Bridge, sorry. I think Edinburgh Castle would probably, it's got to be up there. Maybe the statue of Donald Dewar, Rhino, urinates on.
Urinated on.
Why would you urinate on Donald Dewar?
Donald Dewar? I don't know. Maybe Rhino was a staunch Tory. I have no idea. I mean, Donald Dewar, I remember when they built that statue of Donald Dewar, I hadn't long since moved back to Glasgow. People kept breaking off his glasses.
Yeah, I remember reading about that. Why?
They had to build a higher plinth to make it harder to reach, because he's right at the top of Buchanan Street outside the Royal Concert Hall. But going back to Edinburgh Castle, I must have seen it from Princess Street, maybe hundreds of times. But there's that Glasgow Edinburgh rivalry where it's difficult for people to say anything nice about the city that they're not from. But every time I come out of the Waverley and walk onto Princess Street, I'm always impressed by Edinburgh Castle. Every time. You know what I mean? It's every single time. It's just, like sort of looking over the city at the top of the Royal Mile and everything. It's and like even like I had the pleasure of taking my daughters a couple of years ago when the three of us went home. My wife couldn't go back; she was working, so we went home for the October week, and we did all the things that we're not allowed to do when we travel with my wife, and we went through to Edinburgh for the day, and they were, maybe like Macy was about 11 or 10, Renee was about 7, and they were like. They stood and looked at it for quite a long time. You know what I mean? It's it's breathtaking, Edinburgh Castle.
I don't think you really appreciate it. I've been there a couple of times when I was at school. We went to tours there, and I guess it wasn't until I'd left Scotland for quite a while, and then I went to Edinburgh with my wife, who is German, and she'd never been there, and you kind of stood on Princes Street looking at it, and she's like, wow. And you're like, yeah, it's pretty fucking impressive. I was like, wait till we go up the Royal Mile and go up to it. And you go up to it, and we did stand. I don't think we didn't go for a tour around it, but we kind of went round the courtyard and stuff. And it's fucking impressive, Edinburgh Castle.
And the view from the castle itself, you can see all the way over to like the Forth rail and road bridges. Like they can see for miles. On a clear day, on a clear sunny day, you understand why when people visit Scotland from like Europe and America and Asia and everything, that they make a beeline for Edinburgh and the castle. You know what I mean? It's absolutely awesome.
Okay, right. Enough about bumming up our Edinburgh neighbours. Okay, anything else to say about Angel Share? Because I feel like we haven't spoken about it enough.
There's so many segues. I think we've spoken about it quite a lot. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we haven't, maybe not enough.
No, I think we probably have. I mean, there's not a lot to speak about. We've spoken about the robbery, we've spoken about everything else. Yeah, maybe not. Shall we put the Angel Share through the Swally Awards?
Let's do it. Not in any particular order. I'm going to start with the Jake McQuillan Your Tease Out Award. No, I mean, it's not, apart from the one bit of violence in the hospital, it's not a particularly violent film. But what did you pick for
It's
that?
not. I mean, there's two scenes of violence, really. There is Robbie and the uncles, and then there is, of course, the flashback to when Robbie had his coked up kind of fight. I did give it to the Robbie and the uncles because I thought that was kind of the most violent moment in a way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a bit of near violence when they go to see the flat, and Robbie realizes that like Clancy's pal Sniper has been following him, and he threatens him, but it does lead to another really funny moment when he comes out and he kicks over the motorbike, and then Sniper rides by. Wrong bike, you dick, or something like that.
In fact, that's probably more of a definition of your tease out, actually. The kicking over the motorbike and it being the wrong motorbike. So I'm going to give that to your choice there.
Yeah, I think so. Because the other two violent moments are a wee bit too true to life, So this was a bit of a tricky one, the James Cosmo Award, because obviously it's Ken Loach. He tends, as we discussed earlier on, not to fill his productions with established actors. Interested to hear who you pick for that.
I had a little bit of trouble with this because, as you say, there's not many characters. So I did give it to Paul Brannigan because he's been in 3 Swally items so far. But I'll be interested to hear where you go with this.
I gave it to William Ruan because I feel like he's a more familiar face than Paul Brannigan. You know what I mean? I guess he's been acting a bit longer, like quite a bit longer. He did the first couple of years of River City, and he's got a Taggart credit and he's IMDb. I gave it to William. The Ewan McGregor Award for gratuitous nudity. There's only really one scene that we could give this one to. You don't even see it. Yeah, it's not even gratuitous.
What, in terms of them getting their tadgers out for the policeman and telling him to put some cream on that? Yeah. I mean, you don't see anything, so I don't think we can genuinely give anything to that award.
Nah, because it's not gratuitous. Yeah, you're right. I'd written here kilts up, but yeah, it's no award this week. Scottish moment. There's quite a lot to pick from.
Yeah, I was kind of torn between this. There's a lot to choose from. There's the kilts, there's the Iron Brie, there's the whiskey. I give it to You're a Dirty Clatty Bastard. And that for me was the archetypal Scottish moment in terms of I know it's not a moment, but it's a line, but you're a dirty, clatty bastard is just sums up for me. That was Scotland. And I know there's kilts and there's beautiful Scottish scenery and whiskey and iron brew bottles. Iron brew bottles was my number 2, but you're a dirty, clatty bastard is my number 1.
I took a bit of a different direction. I had Albert falling off the train platform because it just... being pissed and falling off. It just feels like a really sort of west of Scotland thing to happen.
I don't know. I've never seen that happen. It's never happened to me.
It's never happened to me. I've never physically seen it happen. I've read about it in the newspaper a lot.
Okay.
Especially when I lived in Glasgow, like that Airdrie to Glasgow train, I think was happened quite a lot. And so another one that's quite a difficult one to narrow down is the Francis Begbie Award for swearing.
What did you go for on this one?
I mean, there's a lot to go for here. I mean, pretty much every time Albert opens his mouth, you know what I mean? It's like fucking. And Leonie's dad threatening Robbie in the car. But it wasn't really fun. Again, it's a bit like the violence one. It's not really funny because it's malicious, you know? What did you go for? I
genuinely went for the first swear word in the film. This is God calling. Get off the fucking track, will you? So I went with Ford Kiernan. It instantly made me laugh. There are a lot of swear words that made me laugh in the film, but this was probably made me laugh the most.
We'll give it to Ford K. And then who are we giving the Sean Connery award? Well, who'd you give the Sean Connery award for? Who won the film?
I gave it to Paul Brannigan initially,
right?
But I'm not sure whether to give it to Ken Loach in terms of the way he did the film. But no, I'm going to give it. It was Paul Brannigan's first film, his first performance, his first acting role, and I think he did a really good job. So I'm going to give it to Paul Brannigan.
I went in a different direction. I agree with you. I think Paul Brannigan is great in that lead role as Robbie. But I don't know. I wanted things to work out for him, but I wasn't really endeared to him. Do you know what I mean? Not in the same way as I was endeared to Rhino and Harry and Albert. But just because I looked forward to every minute that he was on the screen, I gave it to Gary Maitland as Albert.
Okay.
Because
I'll take that.
For me, just every time he came on, you know.
To be fair, Albert came up with the kilts idea. Albert came up with the idea of the market share of the whiskey. Yeah. So you know what? Yeah. Albert probably did win the film in a way.
Yeah. I just thought, I mentioned earlier on, that Gary Maitland doesn't have an awful lot on his IMDb. Only 3 or 4 appearances, but he's not one of the lead characters in this film by any stretch. But when they're all together, Robbie, Mo, Rhino, and Albert, he just really kind of fucking lightens the whole thing up for me. Do you know what I mean? He's so funny. I don't know how much of it is off the cuff, how much of it is off the script, or what you call it. I feel like when they call him, comes up with the kilt idea, and they say, "We'll have to change the name to Albert Einstein." He's like, "Who the fuck's Albert Einstein?" It's all these little last sort of lines he gets in before the scene cuts to another scene. I just thought he was really, really good. So I guess that's Sweet 16 put through our prestigious Swally Awards. So, are you on the edge of your seat to find out what we're going to review in our next episode?
I am, Greg. As I said to you before we started recording this, it's one of my favourite parts of the episode. I want to know what we're doing next, and it's your choice next week. So what are we going to be looking at next week?
Well, you chose The Angel's Share because you'd never seen it before. And so it's inspired me to choose a movie that I've never seen before. And for a couple of reasons. One, the lead actor that's in this film, I don't feel has been in our Swally reviews enough. And he's one of my favourite Scottish actors. Two, I've read the book because you gave me the book when I came to visit you in Dubai a few years ago. So I've chosen for our next episode The Legend of Barney Thompson, starring Robert Carlyle and Emma Thompson and Stephen Cole and Martin Compston and a whole host of Swally favourites.
I can say, Greg, that was genuinely going to be my next choice on the Swally. Because,
really?
Yeah, it was, because I'd been looking at the Swally tally, which we will put up on the Instagram very soon. And I was looking and I was thinking, we don't have enough fucking Bobby Carlyle on this tally. And genuinely, the Legend of Barney Thompson was either that or I was going to do an episode of Hamish Macbeth.
I'm glad I chose Barney Thompson.
Amazing. Oh, I can't wait. I'm going to look forward to watching that. I have watched it before. So, and I know, we both read the book, so I'm looking forward to doing that, yeah.
Oh, and I remember really enjoying the book. I think I burned through it pretty quickly after you gave it to me. And then, it's one of those things, like I lent it to somebody else and fucking never got it back. But I'm looking forward to watching that this week.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, then you can follow us on Instagram at Culture Swally Pod, or why don't you email us with anything you've seen in the news or anything you'd like us to review on the Swally, and you can contact us on cultureswally@gmail.com, or follow us on Twitter at SwallyPod. And we do have a website, but I think Greg's got a little bit of a rant about our website providers at the moment.
I'm not going to rant, because I realise that I've been unpleasant on this podcast already today about our Isle of Jura wedding people. But yeah, there's the podcast, there's an issue with it. We use Bluehost as our website hosting service, and they're having some problems. So under normal circumstances, you could find us at cultureswallyblog.com. I wouldn't recommend going there at the moment, because the technicians on the Bluehost helpline have made an arse of the page. So, once it's up and running properly again, which I'm sure it will be soon, we'll let you know on Twitter and Instagram, and you can come and check us out there.
Right, okay. Until next time, thank you very much, everyone, for listening, and let's go Barney Thompson. Till next time, Greg.
Until next time.